But right now, Zahra, I should have corrected the pronunciation before we got on the air. I'm sorry, Zahra Billoo is with me. Zahra is a civil rights attorney and the executive director of the San Francisco Bay Area office for the Council on Islamic and American-Islamic Relations.
It's a long name.
CAIR.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an honor. It's a pleasure to have you with us. So, first of all, what is the situation right now with regard to Muslims in the United States, the Muslim ban, Donald Trump? You know, he actually campaigned on he was going to trash people like you.
Right.
Where are we at?
Right.
With this? Legally, where are we at with this kind of structurally and culturally?
Right. The president, our current president, campaigned on banning people who pray the way I pray from coming into the United States. Never mind the fact that we've been here since this country's founding.
Yep.
Before. And you know, that early litigation went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did not rule on the constitutionality of the Muslim ban, but did permit it to go forward. So the Muslim ban is in effect right now. If you are from Iran, Syria, Somalia, Libya, or Yemen, you can't come to the United States. It doesn't matter if you're dying. It doesn't matter if you want to get married. You cannot come to the United States. There are lawsuits that are pending in Maryland and in California that hope to continue to cut the Muslim ban by 1 million cuts. But there's also legislation now, the No Ban Act, which would repeal the bans right now, but also make it difficult, make it hopefully impossible for future administrations to pass further bans. And so members of Congress that might be listening or people that want to reach out to their members of Congress should make sure that they are supporting this legislation. And the Democratic presidential candidates need to commit to repealing the ban. This president put it in his first week in office. The next president could take it out in their first day.
Yeah, it's amazing. We had just an outrageous story we were reporting on here, I think it was yesterday or the day before, about a man who was born in Iran, moved to Germany, lived in Germany for 40 years. He's a physician. His son, as I recall, was in the United States studying, and his son was in a car accident and died.
Right.
And he tried to get a visa to come to the United States from Germany. The guy's a German citizen.
Right.
But he was born in Iran. Trying to come to his son's funeral, and the Trump administration said, no, you can't come into our country.
Right.
This is beyond anything that has to do with rational arguments. I mean, not to even strongly say that there was any kind of rational argument to begin with.
There wasn't, right.
I mean, I could see an argument for somebody who's an avowed member of ISIS or something, or Al Qaeda, but you know, just like I think that there's a really good argument to be made for evicting from our country some of the Christian fundamentalists who run on shooting
But which
people.
country would we punish them? Like punish by sending these people to, right? Like we all, unfortunately, each of these countries has people in their populations that are violent criminals, but we don't believe in punishing everyone for it.
As the excuse.
Religion, capitalism, racism, nationalism. I mean, so many excuses.
Yeah. But this seems to me like Donald Trump started his campaign basically saying he was a racist. He's been a racist his whole life. We knew this from the Central Park Five. I mean, he turned that into a cause célèbre. We know this from the way that he treated our first black president, Barack Obama, you know, claiming that, Obama's not really a citizen, and, you know,
absurd. Absurd.
I think it's beyond absurd. I think it's poisoning this country.
I agree with you, but I also want to acknowledge that family separation, which is like the Muslim ban is one of the early family separation policies of this administration, is something that's existed since this country's founding. Whether we were ripping apart indigenous families or the black families that were brought over here during the slave trade. And so it is, he's poisoning the conversation. But the policies follow a decades-long, if not centuries-long, trend of separating families who come from places or look a certain way or pray a certain way that doesn't make white Christians feel comfortable.
Right. So beyond calling our members of Congress, and beyond trying to be the rational voice at the Thanksgiving Day table when Uncle Ralph goes off on his Fox News
Which is so important, by the way, because I'm not at that table.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's one of the. And in fact, occasionally I'll get those Uncle Ralph characters who either call in or come on the program, and I try to engage them to model for people how to have those conversations. But what else can we do?
It's going to be so important that people are really involved in the 2020 election. There's a lot of focus on the presidential candidates. I mean, one candidate drops out, another candidate comes in. It's a big circus right now, but every candidate right now has the ability to influence the conversation. And so to the effect that anyone can be pressuring their candidate of choice to commit to repealing the ban, and to commit to changing the course of xenophobia and Islamophobia that we've seen from this administration. That's going to be important, because even if my candidate doesn't win, if my candidate makes that commitment, it encourages the next candidate to make that commitment. And then to support down ballot. What we saw in 2018 was an incredible upsurge of women, of people of color, of Muslims running for office. I was on a great panel today organized by the New American Leaders project that featured Muslim women wearing headscarves who've run for office. And I'd love to see more people support candidates that represent the diversity and the values that we celebrate at Netroots.
We're talking with Zahra Billoo, who is a civil rights attorney and the executive director of the San Francisco Office of CARE, the Council on American-Islamic Relations. Tucker Carlson, yesterday and the day before yesterday, went off against Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar is she and her family fled Somalia during the Civil War. They lived in a refugee camp in Kenya for 4 years. They finally got to the United States. She became a citizen. She loves this country. She wants to contribute to this country.
She's the American dream.
She literally is.
She is the American dream.
And she got elected to Congress from Minnesota, and now we've got these guys like Tucker Carlson saying that he said she hates America. She's ungrateful, quack, quack, quack. I am at a loss. I mean, this is my industry, right? This is, and we've got a portion of our media, and it's not just Fox News. It's also right-wing hate radio all across the United States. And yesterday we were discussing this topic. Yesterday I had a caller call in and say that he listens to, or she, an elderly woman who listens to religious radio all the time. And I haven't listened to religious broadcasting in 20 years, but apparently it's shifted from just talking about Jesus to talking about how, Jesus hates Muslims. And and brown people, and just in general, just this whole kind of racist.
Jesus, the Palestinian Jew,
exactly,
hates brown people and Muslims who weren't technically around.
There you go, and Jesus loves Donald Trump, and we're we've seen this unholy alliance between Jerry Falwell Jr. and his pool boy and Donald Trump and whatever's going on with Franklin Graham and all these guys, but And I realize you're not a partisan organization, and I'm not going to try and drag you into a partisan conversation. But I am, and in fact, we were just discussing, how do we change the discussion around immigration in the United States? Because, most countries, allow immigration within, reasonable limits, but they also require people, in order to get a job, to have permission to be in the country. And so, which is a completely different thing from the debate around refugees, which we've got, on the southern border and a crisis going on. And the Democrats are. My sense of it is that the discussion around this does not have the level of
urgency.
Well, urgency, sophistication, clarity. Trump basically is saying, those people are coming to take your jobs. And people go, oh, my God. And there's nothing from the Democrats. Or those people are bringing, lice and disease, and, which is the racist stereotype crap. I'm struggling to message this, particularly for Democrats or for candidates.
I think that, first and foremost, the thing I always want to make sure we mention when we talk about refugees that's unique for America, more so than any other country in the world, is our role in causing the crisis that forces people to leave their homes. People aren't just leaving their homes and crossing dangerous territory and putting their lives at risk because it's fun or exciting or they needed a day at Disneyland.
And they're not looking for jobs.
They are
fleeing violence
for their lives.
That Ronald Reagan started with official U.S. policy. For which, in part, Ollie North and Elliot Abrams got pardoned by George Herbert Walker Bush at the insistence of Bill Barr, who's now our Attorney General again. And
so, so that's the thing I always want to make sure that we say, is that these are not people coming to Disneyland. These are people who are fleeing the conditions that we created. Beyond that, I don't know that I would say, the Democratic Party has been disappointing. Sometimes I'm in the Bay Area. I appreciate so much of what Nancy Pelosi has done, but I'm also are you not feeling the urgency? Do you not? And she doesn't. She doesn't have family members that are impacted in the way that so many of my friends and colleagues are. But there is, there's a great resurgence happening within the Democratic Party. There's a revival with these freshman members of Congress. And I've been disappointed when Nancy Pelosi has tried to quash that or to understate that, right? Is that the Democratic Party is not moving fast enough. People's lives are on the line, and they are letting themselves be pawns in the political game at the cost of people's lives. Like, how many stories do we have to hear about a kid dying in ICE custody? Right. How much do we have to learn about the racism of Border Patrol before we can all get on board to say we need to abolish ICE, that this is a very problematic, militaristic agency that is killing people that are seeking safety?
They've become